FT5T, 5Z7T5, something like that. 5D, or FT5D, I believe. Pardon my jumbles there.
Okay, the FT55DR, an absolutely fantastic APRS machine. It really is. And of course you can read two different things on at the same time, so you can have APRS going. Just please make sure you don't accidentally have your APRS on and beacon, and then tune in a repeat on that side of the radio, because then you're sending the repeater with the APRS packets, which is just annoying. But other than that, APRS is just great jobs of fun. You have a great time. I have that radio. Well, yeah, I have a bunch of radios. But anyway, I have that radio. It's a really good radio. So sounds like between the 91 and the FT5DR, you are well equipped. N5 KRG.
Well, thank you, sir, and thanks for chatting. Definitely excited to keep going into this, keep practicing and building and learning, and it's so much fun. Can't wait to get my kids involved. So, yep. KJ5 and 7-3 is what we're supposed to say.
Alright, KJ5GYM from 5 KRG 7-3, and good evening.
Dallas Race Net, first and third Sunday, 8 p.m. W5FC. W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make this very clear. The uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That's right, sir.
Skynet.
I'm ready to check all notes. KFI's available.
This net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. We have general announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events. Discussion topic of the evening was space exploration and space history, Constellation of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and the 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So we'll begin with short time check-ins. Please come now with your call sign name and where you're transmitting from this evening. This will be for short time, folks that probably won't make it through the entire net. Please come now.
Kilo Charlie 5, Mike, Papa Oscar, Jamie, Mobile, from Dallas, short time. W5PLT, Phil, Garland, Whiskey 5, Bacon Lettuce Tomato. Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Lima Lima, Huey Richardson.
Kilo Juliet 5, Golf Yankee November. This is Josh in Plano.
Okay, let me go ahead and get those before we get to general check-ins. I've got KC5MPO, that's Jamie, is mobile in North Dallas. W5BLT, Bill, Garland. KF5PLL, Huey in Richardson. And KJ5GYN, Josh in Plano. Any additional short time check-ins, please come now. Okay, anyone checked in have anything they want to bring to the net before you disappear into the ether? Yes, Brenda. Thank you. You're worthless.
Yeah, 5, PLL.
KF5PLL, Huey, go ahead.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is the 55th anniversary of man landing on the moon when Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin touched down. I am here to announce the initiation of the, air quotes, BB. We're looking for charter members within the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. So there's a very short motto with 3 B's as it relates to the BB recovery group. Be good, be short, then be silent. On that note, I sign off. Back to net. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Huey. We had interesting discussion today. Okay, thank you very much. Next up is general check-ins. If you are one of those, now's your opportunity to check in. Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from. General check-ins, please.
Kilo Juliet 5, Golf November Foxtrot. The name's Brian, out of Terrell. KJ5GNF. This is Alpha Golf 5, Papa Mike, Rich in Rockwell, AG 5 p.m. Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Milky Way, maybe closer to Mesquite. Oh, and Bob the Cat. November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
Kilo Golf 2, Bravo Alpha Delta, Brian in Dallas.
And Hal at Jupiter.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra, Gus, far, far northeast Dallas. Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson.
Kilo India 5, Papa Golf, Mike, Travis, and McKinney. This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James and Carrollton. November 5, Lima, India Golf, L and Little L. November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill and Irving.
All right, let's hold up there. There were a couple of doubles, and I'm gonna need some fills, but I think I got most of you. So let me start at the top. I got KJ5GNF, Brian and Terrell. AG5PM, Rich and Rockwall. K5JHA, Chaz in Mesquite, along with Bob the Cat. NT5TM, Tony in Dallas. And then I got a KG2 call, and my brain locked at that point. If I can get your full call, name, and where you're transmitting from.
Certainly. Kilo Golf 2, Bravo Alpha Delta, Brian in Oak Cliff.
Ah, very good. I've got KG2BAD, that's Brian in Oak Cliff. K5KOB, Philip and Crandall, I did pull you out of the mud. W5GUS, Gus in far, far northeast Dallas. K5ZBL, Bill over in Farmers Branch. AA5AH, that's Robert in Richardson. KI5PGM, that's Travis over in McKinney. KG5 Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Garland. And then the next one, I got a November call, Lima India Golf, I think that's Bill in Little Elm. Bill, could you give me your full call again, please?
Yeah, this is November 5, Lima India Golf, N5, LIG, Dell in Little Elm.
Okay, N5LI, was it Papa or Golf, Bill? I'm sorry.
November 5, Lima India Golf, N5, LIG.
All right, N5LIP, and then N5BB, the other Bill, over in Irving. Now, if you didn't hear your call, it's because you got covered over, so I wasn't ignoring you, I just didn't hear you. So we'll go for another round. Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
This is November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, plane located in about the same area of the Milky Way as and Bob the Cat. November 3, Kilo Delta Papa, Kurt in Irving. Kilo 5, Mike Charlie Delta, Cody in Dallas. T5, Sierra Papa Hotel, Steve in Gulfport, Mississippi.
November, Victor 5 Fox, Virginia, Fort Worth, formerly of Gulfport, Mississippi, on
Kilo, Germany 5, United Foxtrot Romeo, Yankee 5, UFR, Jacob, Dallas. That works. Kilo, India 5, Golf Bravo Tango, Chris and Godley. Echo Link.
All right, let's hold up there for a sec. I'm going to need one fill, I think, but let me get in here what we got, and then I'll go over to Echolink. We have N50F playing Mesquite. I've got N3 Kilo Delta Papa in Irving. Could I get your name, please? I didn't get that written down. Okay, I had a November 3 call. Whoever the November 3 call was, I hope it's a November 3. Maybe it was a 5. Kilo Delta Papa, or close in Irving. Okay, you were all noise. I'm going to check you in. You got some a lot of noise. I could barely hear you there, but I've got you in here. Over in Irving. I got K5 MCD Cody in Dallas. W5 SPH. That's Steve. Steve is in, you said in the Gulf. I got you down in Echolink. Thank you for joining us. NV5F Virginia, Fort Worth. KG5 UFR, Jacob in Dallas. KI5 GBT. That's Chris over in Godley, I think. He's over on Echolink. Wonderful. All right, I'm going to go over to Echolink. I know there's several people here. Some are checked in, some are not. So Echolink, this is your opportunity to check in. If you have not heard your call, or have not acknowledged it, or I messed it up, please come on back with the correct call, your name, where you're transmitting from. Anyone on Echolink would like to join from there, please come now.
Tom, I'm sorry. Were you calling for general announcements or other check-ins?
Doing Echolink right now.
Oh, sorry. I misheard. I got distracted. I'll be quiet. NT5TM.
All right, that's fine. No problem. This is Echolink. Echolink check-ins only. I'll give you extra time since it takes a little while for it to settle down and transmit. So Echolink only, please come now.
This is Alpha Golf, Niner.
Tango X-ray, Kelly is point.
Sierra Golf.
Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, William Sherman on Echo Link.
This is Alpha Golf, Niner, Sierra Golf. Antonio, currently in Juarez, Chihuahua.
Okay, I think everybody else is checked in. Let me go ahead and acknowledge those. I got AG9SG, that's Antonio. He's in Juarez, Chihuahua. Mexico tonight. He's a long way from home, or maybe he's home. I don't know, but he's not here. But he's on Echolink. I gotcha. K5KTX, Kelly and Point. KF5PDS, Miss Billy over in Sherman. All right, I'll open it up to anybody who'd like to check in anywhere. Please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo 5, Juliet Delta Whiskey, John and Capel.
Okay, I got actually two more. I've got one over here that was to be your net control. I got K5JDW, John and Capel, and then poor Brenda, who has terrible signal tonight, and I'm doing her net. I will tell you, WB5OZL, Brenda in Dallas, she put most of this net together tonight, so sorry you couldn't get in, Brenda, but in any case, you're there, and we've got you. So WB5OZL, Brenda, over in Dallas. Anyone else want to check in before we begin? Please come now with your call sign. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Yep, about 20 minutes is what it is. We're discussing new ways of doing check-ins maybe in the future. So I'll tell you what, this will be an announcement of sorts. If you would prefer that we just have check-ins electronically and skip the 20 minutes of check-ins, that's entirely up to this group. I don't mind doing them, nobody else does, but on the other hand, it's 20 minutes of check-ins. So if you would like an electronic version, send an email to nets@w5fc.org if you'd like. Give your opinion on that one way or the other. Maybe we can modify that a little bit if people are so inclined to do so. Okay, do we have any general announcements this evening? These can be of ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. Please come with your call now.
Okay, this time there were no bird squawks. November Tango, there was one. November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Okay, Tony, one of our regulars, NT5TM, go ahead.
Thank you, Tom, and sorry for jumping the gun earlier when there are bird noises and there's suddenly a big silence. I get worried I was supposed to do something. That's just my neurosis. Okay, well, of course, we're here tonight in Skynet, and we'll be talking about all kinds of cool things about Mars and the constellation Draco. Later tonight at about 10:30, plus or minus 5 minutes, we'll be discussing, not watching, we don't watch movies on the net, Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes, a strange indie Japanese sci-fi movie. It's only an hour and 10 minutes long, and it's subtitled, so you could always watch it on Tubi TV and mute the sound and listen to this net too. Of course, we do have a meeting on the air tomorrow night at 7 and a Racy's training net tomorrow at 8. There's a Geeks net on Monday at 7, and then a Net at 7 p.m. on July 29th. What's it about? I don't know. That's why it's a surprise. If you have a good idea, you don't have to be net control, but I sure hope you'll share your idea. Send your idea in to nets@w5fc.org. We have had some excellent net suggestions and great net material over the years. Maybe this time it's your turn to provide the idea. Or to be net control if you're into that kind of thing. Also, we do have a contest going on right now, meters. Use whatever antenna you've got. Just try to exchange call signs and grid squares with folks. This is one of those contests that qualifies you for an entry in our dark members-only event, our raffle to win a radio at the end of the year. You can't buy tickets. You can only earn them by getting on the air. So participate in the contest and find out more about the event at w5fc.org. I hope to hear you on all of our nets, just talk about the movie with you, listen what's been going on in your ham world tomorrow, and maybe you'll geek out with me on Monday. NT5TM.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Tony. Thanks you for those announcements, and thank you for doing that every week. It's most appreciated. Okay, I'll give you the usual announcements. I'll go quickly through them. Don't forget, there's the AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group, which, by the way, we had a chance at Moon Day at the Frontiers of Flight Museum today. They were sitting right next to us with the DARC. We play well together, and there's cross-membership galore between those two groups, but it was a lot of fun having them there, as well as the net control I'm going to tell you about here in a minute. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m., there's actually 2 nets available. You'll need Echolink installed for one of them, and look under the groups and AMSAT. This is a live audio link is also available at amsatnet.com. This originates in Houston, Texas. Then we have our very own net control. This is AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, every Tuesday at 8 p.m. as well on this repeater. Tom, N5HYP, is usually the net control, although it sometimes rotates. All are welcome to check in. Now, on the first Tuesday of the month is DARC Club Night, so there's no AMSAT Net East because of the meeting. There is also on Wednesday evenings an AMSAT Net West for Dallas at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater. Tom hosts that one. Frequency is, I believe, 147.140 megahertz with a PL10 of 110.9 with a positive offset. DRC has a number of nets on Monday evenings. I'll go through them quickly. We have a ham fixins net on the first week, which is a cooking net. Bring your culinary skills, recipes, and other cooking wisdom to the first week, Mondays at 7 p.m. Ham Fixins Net. Second week is MCOM 101. That's the Emergency Communications Net. You don't have to be a member of any served agency. If you're curious about MCOM Emergency Communications, this is a great net. It's a good net to listen in on. On the third week is a second helping of Ham Fixins. On the fourth week is GeekNet, where we geek beyond ham radio. We talk about all different things that are of interest to the technologically minded individuals. Fifth week, as Tony just mentioned, is a surprise net. We have one. If we told you what it is, it wouldn't be a surprise. We're looking for ideas for the net. So if you've got something, especially audience participation oriented, that's what we're looking for. Let's see, don't forget Friday evenings. Let's move to Friday evenings. We have CERT City Simulation at 8 p.m. Learn about emergency communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa, KI5GRH, is usually the net control. There's a lot of simulations in that net as well, so visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday, CERT City. Saturdays night from 7 to 8 p.m. is Skynet. I'm sorry, from 7 to 8 p.m. is TechNet, where we talk about all things amateur radio technically related. If you got a question or answer about ham radio that you like to bring to a group, that's a great net from 7 to 8. We take an hour break, and then is Skynet, which you're listening to now. And then finally, the Afterglow Movie Net, which I'm going to give some details. That's from 10:30 to midnight this evening. You don't necessarily have to have seen the movie. Just have to, you might want to just participate and talk about whatever you want to talk about, movies in general. Also daily, the ARRL net, National Traffic System Training Net, that's at 6:30 p.m. All are welcome to check in. Learn about how to move formalized traffic. That's a formal net too. So if you're new to amateur radio or you need to just brush up on your formal net skills, that's where you can do it. You can make no mistakes. It's a training net. All are welcome to check in any or all of these nets. Tonight's Afterglow info, Tony did bring it up, but I, of course, have my own ditty for this, so here we go. The following program is brought to you 2 minutes into the future. Viewer time travel discretion is advised. The Japanese were used to new technology, but they weren't completely sold on the idea of watching something that hadn't happened yet. They switched through the channels. Some were obvious. The time travel channel, the coming attractions channel, and of course, old TV shows like Leave It to the Future Beaver. But the future, it was great or would be great or was great. Who has a time travel headache? Raise your hand right now and join us for Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes, filmed in 2022, everyone's favorite plague-infested, COVID time, where a bunch of movies were made. We've talked about 5 of them so far, all but one in order, all made in 2022. This is another one, so this is, I think, number 6. But you can talk about it tonight at 10:30 p.m. You can keep up with all DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org, or whiskey5friedchicken.org. Okay, I'll take additional check-ins. Anybody who's a latecomer who has not checked in, now's your opportunity. Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from. Okay, I don't hear anyone out there, but for anybody who's listening, we're up to 30 check-ins, so we got a little bit of a boost from Moon Day today. I'm happy to hear all the new voices out there. Come back next week, too. We're here every week and have been for over 10 years. Okay, next up is Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. This one is Chaz. It says right here on my script, KF5JHA. Chaz, what do you have for us this evening?
Why, thank you, alternate net control. I talked to Brenda earlier. I thought she was going to be able to be online. Oh, well. Slide Master, that would be our alternate net control. That's Tom. He's a Slide Master on the video version. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting is held on Friday, July the 26th. That's in 6 days. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas and also held on Zoom. The featured speaker will be about astrophotography, presented by the TAS Astrophotography Special Interest Group. Now, Saturday night public observing sessions continue. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night, so there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. On the third Saturday, that's tonight, of the month, the stargazing held at Cedar Hill. But unfortunately, that was canceled because of the cloud cover. So, you can check the TAS website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. This is KFI, JHA, and me, Bob the Cat. It's outside. That's it. You have not gone on to the video version of Skynet. Got to get that together because later on, we're going to have some good videos about what happened in the movie. KFI, JHA.
Okie dokie, thank you, Chaz. Your signal, or actually your audio, your signal's fine. Your audio dropped out there for a second. It's been known to do that. It seems only to be temporary when that occurs, but I just thought I would mention it. You may want to make sure your audio is up. Probably when you retransmit, it'll come back up anyway. That seems to be just a weird thing that happens every once in a while with you. Okay, next up is National Space Society events and activities. That would be Bill, who is checked in, N5BB. Bill, what do you have for us this evening?
Hi, Tom. This is N5BB. By the way, we can understand you, but your signal is not. The National Space Society is a group that is interested in things that humans do in space. And we were at the Moon Day event today at Frontiers of Flight Museum. We will be at another event a week from today. That's on Saturday, July the 27th. It's a Space Day event at the at the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History. This is at 1600 Gindy Street. It's 1600 Gindy Street. But you can just of Science and History, and it's easy to find a web search. And this is over in Fort Worth in the museum district. They have a planetarium there and lots of other things. So we will be there. The National Space Society local North Texas chapter will be there next week. This event is from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Of course, there's other things going on during Space Day. So the event is from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. next week. So if you want to be around other people interested in space things, go over to the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History. If you haven't been there, it's a neat little museum. It's kind of across the street there from the Dickey Stadium they built a few years ago. Another event coming up next week is a event which occurs on the last Friday evening of every month. It's the Space Rendezvous. This is a social event at Cheddar's Restaurant in North Irving. This is on Highway 635 near MacArthur. The address is 700 West, Highway 635 in Irving. It's Cheddar's Restaurant. And we start about 6 p.m., although some people get there late. But it goes from about 6 to 8 p.m. It's a social event. You don't have to be a member of any particular group to be there. And we talk about space things, usually things that are hot in the news, like the Boeing capsule that's up there, the SpaceX recent failure of their second stage, all kinds of other things that are going on with regards to NASA and commercial spaceflight, etc., and space probes for that matter. The next meeting of the National Space Society will be on August the 11th. Our meetings are always on the second Sunday afternoon of each month at 3:30 p.m. at Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving. This is at the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline, across the street from Irving Mall. Our presentation starts at 4. I don't know if this has changed, but the presenter that was scheduled for this was a remote presenter. It's Dwayne Washington at NASA headquarters, and he's supposed to be talking about the Mars sample return. Mars sample return, kind of a hot topic, by a NASA guy from NASA headquarters, Dwayne Washington. So that will be the next National Space Society North Texas chapter event. If you would learn more about the National Space Society or our local chapter, want to learn how to join either of them or both, you can contact me. It's space@byron.net. That's SPACE at BYROM.net. Or you can find me at my email address on QRZ. This is November 5, Bravo, Bravo. That's all I got, Tom. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you, Bill. Does anyone need any fills on all the stuff that we've covered so far this evening? Please come with your call. Okay, very good. I've finished all that. Now let's move to the discussion topic of the evening. Brenda, WB50ZL, came up with this. I don't have the citation of where, but at any rate, this is an article that was published here not too fairly recently, and it is entitled 8 Cool Destinations That Future Mars Tourists Could Explore. So here we go. It says Mars is a planet of vast contrast, huge volcanoes, deep canyons, and craters that may or may not host running water. It will be an amazing location for future tourists to explore once we put the first red planet colonies into motion. The landing sites for these future missions will likely need to be flat plains for safety and practical reasons, but perhaps they could land within a few days' drive of some of the more interesting geology. Here are some of the locations that future Martians could visit. We'll start with Olympus Mons. It is the most extreme volcano in the solar system. Located in the Tharsis volcanic region, it's about the same size as the state of Arizona, according to NASA. Its height of 16 miles makes it nearly 3 times the height of Earth's Mount Everest, which is also 5.5 miles high. Olympus Mons is a gigantic shield volcano which was formed after lava slowly crawled down its slopes. This means that the mountain is probably easy for future explorers to climb, as its average slope is only 5%. At its summit is a spectacular depression some 53 miles wide, formed by the magma chambers that lost lava, likely during an eruption, and collapsed. Next up is the Tharsis volcanoes. While you're climbing around Olympus Mons, it's worth sticking around to look at some of the other volcanoes in the Tharsis region. Tharsis hosts 12 gigantic volcanoes in a zone roughly 2,500 miles wide, according to NASA. Like Olympus Mons, these volcanoes tend to be much larger than those on Earth, presumably because Mars has a weaker gravitational pull that allows volcanoes to grow taller. These volcanoes may have erupted for as long as 2 billion years, or half the history of Mars. Now, if you're watching the video version of this, there is a picture on the screen of these volcanoes. This picture shows the Eastern Tharsis region as imaged by Viking 1 in 1908. Boy, that's an old picture. Who knew? At left, at the top to bottom, you can see 3 shield volcanoes that are roughly 16 miles high. The Ascratius Mons, Pavonis Mons, and Aricia Mons. In the upper right is another shield volcano called Tharsis Tholus. I guess it's not a Mons. Okay. Next up is Valles Marineris. Mars is not only host to the largest volcano in the solar system, but also the largest canyon. Valles Marineris is roughly 1,850 miles long, according to NASA. That's about 4 times longer than the Grand Canyon, which has a length of about 500 miles. Researchers aren't sure Valles Marineris came to be, but there are several theories about its formation. Many scientists suggest that then, when the Tharsis region was formed, it contributed to the growth of Valles Marineris. Lava moving through the volcanic region pushed the crust upward, which broke the crust into fractures in the other regions. Over time, these fractures grew into Valles Marineris. Next are the North and South Poles. Mars has 2 icy regions at its poles, which are slightly different compositions. The North Pole, which is pictured on the video, and was studied up close by the Phoenix lander in 2008, while our South Pole observations came from orbiters. During the winter, according to NASA, temperatures near both the North and South Poles are so frigid that carbon dioxide condenses out of the atmosphere into ice on the surface. The process reverses in summer in the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide completely disappears in the northern hemisphere, leaving behind a water ice cap. But some of the carbon dioxide ice remains in the southern hemisphere. All of this ice movement has vast effects in the Martian climate, producing wind and other effects. Next is Gale Crater and Mount Sharp. Made famous by the landing of the Curiosity rover in 2012, Gale Crater is host to an extensive evidence of past water. Curiosity stumbled upon a steam bed within weeks of landing and found more extensive evidence of water throughout its journey along the crater floor. Curiosity is now summiting a nearby volcano called Mount Sharp, or Aeolus Mons, and looking at the geological features in each of its strata. One of Curiosity's most exciting finds was discovering complex organic molecules in the region, or on multiple occasions. Results from 2018 announced these organics were discovered inside a 3.5 billion-year-old rocks. Simultaneous to the organics results, researchers announced the rover also found methane concentrations in the atmosphere change over the seasons. Methane is an element that can be produced by microbes as well as geological phenomena, so it's unclear if that's a sign of life. Next is Medusae Fossae. It is one of the weirdest locations on Mars, with some people even speculating that it holds evidence of some sort of UFO crash. The more likely explanation is a huge volcanic deposit, some 1/5 of the size of the United States. Over time, wind sculpted the rocks into some beautiful formations, but researchers will need more study to learn how these volcanoes formed Medusae Fossae. A 2018 study suggests that the formation may have formed from immensely huge volcanic eruptions taking place hundreds of times over 500 million years. These eruptions would have warmed the red planet's climate as greenhouse gases from the volcanoes drifted into the atmosphere. Now this one's pretty spectacular. If you're looking at the video version, this is pretty cool. Recurring slope lineae in Hale crater. Mars is host to some strange features called recurring slope lineae, which tend to form on the sides of steep craters during warm weather. It's hard to figure out where these RSL are, though. Pictures shown here from Hale crater, as well as other locations, show spots where spectroscopy pick up signs of hydration. In 2015, NASA initially announced that the hydrated salts must be the signs of running water on the surface, but later research said the RSL could be formed from atmospheric water or dry flows of sand. In reality, we may have to get up close to these RSLs to see what their true nature is, but there's a difficulty. The RSL indeed host alien microbes. We wouldn't want to get too close in case of contamination. While NASA figures out how to investigate under these planetary protection protocols, future human explorers may have to admire these mysterious features from afar using binoculars. And then finally, the last scenery location, ghost dunes in, Noctis Labyrinthus and Hellas Basin. Mars is a planet mostly shaped by wind these days, since the water evaporated as its atmosphere thinned. But we can see extensive evidence of past water, such as regions of ghost dunes found in Noctis Labyrinthus and Hellas Basin. Researchers say these regions used to hold dunes that were tens of meters tall. Later, the dunes were flooded by lava or water, which preserved their bases while the tops eroded away. Old dunes such as these show how winds used to flow on ancient Mars, which in turn gave climatologists hints as to the ancient environment of the red planet. In an even more exciting twist, these could be microbes hiding in the sheltered areas of these dunes, safe from radiation and wind that would otherwise sweep them up away. And that's it. That's the presentation this evening about 8 possible tourist attractions to go visit on Mars. Brenda put this one together, but I'll entertain any questions. I'm sure somebody here might have an answer. Does anyone have any questions? Before we continue this evening, please come with your call. AG 5 p.m. Rich, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Tom, for running the net this evening. Does anybody know if there's a magnetic field around Mars and how that impacts this discussion around life and atmosphere and whatnot? It seems that the magnetic field around Earth is a big part of our survivability. Do we have any information around what's going on in Mars with that respect?
right, that's an excellent question, Rich, and I'm sure there's somebody here with the answer. Anybody want to put out their call and answer Rich on the magnetic field of Mars as a potential protectorate of any life that may be there? Please come with your call.
Inside BB.
Okay, Bill may have an answer for you. If you need to, you can contact Rich directly. He's AG5PM, but go ahead.
Hi, Rich. This is Inside BB. It's thought that Mars, early in its formation, had a strong magnetic field, but it does not now. So there is no, there's not much shielding from magnetic field from solar radiation on Mars. So at this time, and I'd have to look up the exact numbers to see the strength, but I know it's much weaker than Earth's magnetic field. Inside BB.
Okay, well, there you have it. I think he's right. I'm not an expert, but I seem to remember hearing that. Does anyone else have any comments? Okay, Rich, well, that was a good question. Nobody else is speaking, so I think Bill handled it for you, and I believe he's correct. There's a very weak magnetic field, but I've heard that in other locations as well, where magnetic fields may play an important part protecting from, I guess, radiation. So, very good. Thanks. Very good question. Buzz up, and that would be Chaz, KF5JHA. Chaz, looks like you've got a bunch of pictures and some stuff to talk about this evening, so please go ahead from KE5ICX.
Inside BB, can I make one little quick comment?
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Okay, getting back to Rich. The magnetic field of the Earth is a complete global magnetic field led by a dynamo down deep in the Earth. Magnetic field of Mars, it's mostly lost it, and all that remains is little local magnetized areas. So if you look at a map of the magnetic field of Mars, there's little localized areas in various places that are thought to be parts of the early magnetic field that kind of got frozen into the rocks. But there's no planetary magnetic field per se, okay? So it's just like the moon, it's largely, no magnetic field. Inside BB, sorry.
And Alpha Golf 5 Papa Mike, I would like to ask a follow-on question. Maybe make a comment.
Yeah, sure thing. Go ahead, Rich.
I think I actually heard that much discussion about that.
Sometimes happens.
So the curiosity here is, if Mars doesn't have a magnetic field to shield the planet from solar radiation, and Earth does, but I wonder how long that will last. I'm sure it will outlive all of us. I might try to be a conspiracy theorist here, but at some point, I think there's a lifespan to these things. I'm just kind of curious about, when folks talk about colonizing Mars, etc., how are we supposed to deal with these issues around the shielding of radiation and whatnot? So I don't expect an answer. Actually, it's a rhetorical question, but at some point, right, we're all thinking, we're going to go to Mars, we're going to go to other planets and all that. But at the end of the day, there's this radiation deal with. And the Earth has a unique magnetic field that helps provide shielding here, but other planets don't. So as a practical matter, how do you deal with that when you go to Mars and other places? Are we thinking about that? Who's talking about that? I don't see any of that in discussion around, well, yeah, we're going to go to Mars, AG 5 p.m. Back to that.
Inside BB, can I make a quick comment?
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
This is Inside BB. Rich, this is a very active topic, so you're just not looking at the right sources. If you had gone to the International Space Development Conference, which was in Frisco last year, this year was in Los Angeles, there's active discussion about all these things. And the issues is that if you go to Moon or Mars, if you're going to grow plants, if humans are going to live there, etc., you're going to have to shield against the very high radiation load. And it's extremely high. And it's even worse when you're going from the Earth to Mars. That's the most dangerous thing, because you've got to carry your shielding with you. Well, if you get to Mars, maybe you can build something by going underground or something. The soil is a pretty good attenuator of a lot of the high energy radiation. But going from the Earth to Mars is a problem. It wasn't as much of a problem with the Apollo mission, because it only takes a couple of days to get to the Moon. But when you talk about going to Mars, it's going to take months. So it is a very active topic of discussion, and it's the reason that it's difficult to see how you could build a lightweight vehicle to go to Mars. It's going to have a lot of water or metal or something to shield the occupants from the radiation in case there's solar flares during the transit. Anyway, I've said too much. Inside BB. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rich, and thank you, Bill. Rich, anything else you want to ask? Those are both very, very good questions. Okay, well, I think that will do it on that topic, and we actually had pretty good discussion there, so thank you all who participated. Okay, well, for better or worse, I think for better this time. It's now time for Chaz, KF5JHA. He did presentations today at Moon Day, as well as some other folks, and he took a bunch of pictures, and he also is going to give us what's up in the sky this week, so Chaz, KF5JHA, it's you and Bob the cat's turn to get started. Tell us what we need to know, please, from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Good evening, everyone. Bob the cat went outside, so thankfully he's not helping me out. Slide Master, slide number 2. Yes, this is called What is Up on Skynet, because it's all about what's going on astronomically over the next couple of weeks and beyond. Slide Master, slide number 3. Today was Moon Day, 55 years ago. The Apollo 11 spacecraft landed on the Moon, and they started walking on the Moon about this time, if I remember right. Yeah, it was maybe a little bit earlier than this time. So 55 years ago. Yep, let's see now. Slide Master, slide number 4, please. At 10:30 this morning, Dr. Billy Cheek, and I think, yep, she's still on Echolink over there, KF5PDS. She did a presentation on Earth, Moon, Earth. In other words, transmitting from the Earth, bouncing off the Moon, and then receiving it back to the Earth. Well, it's a great presentation, Billy. Thank you so much. I hope you get to do that sometime in this next year. You've got to let us know if that happens and give a presentation on Skynet about that. Slide Master, slide number 5. An hour later at 11:30, I did a presentation on CHAS, KF5JHA, and I did a program that talked about a little bit of moon information, Apollo 11 stuff. We watched the liftoff of Apollo 11 from a segment of the Apollo 11 movie. Then we learned about moon phases, and we learned about the Apollo mission. So a lot of things in that program. All right, so Slide Master, slide number 6. There were several different exhibit setups beyond the regular ones at the Frontiers of Flight Museum. DARC had a booth. That was slide number 6. Slide number 6 is Astronomical Society of Dallas, and they had quite a big setup as well. And Bill's already talked about it. National Space Society had a booth. That's slide master, slide number 8. They had a lot of different models there. I was impressed with the ISS models that they had set up. That's kind of cool. And then slide master, slide number 9. That's the exhibit overlay. I went up to the balcony, took a picture, and that's what the result is. I did a panorama, but that didn't come out too well, so I didn't include that in the whole thing. But there were people there. That's the whole big deal. Slide master, slide number 10. Skynet has several different net controls, 5 to be exact, and they were all there. We missed the opportunity for all of us to be in one picture, but I put us all together in one slide. So in slide number 10, I would call him Grandpa Skynet, Tom, and then Brenda is in there, and Billy is in there. They're in the top row, and in the bottom row, Bill, I'm sorry, that's you and I in the bottom row. Bill and Chess are in the bottom row down there. Slide master, slide number 11. There's other hands that have participated in Skynet, and I spotted some of them at Moon Day. Top row, Randy, then another Bill. He usually does Irving stuff. And Virginia, she's over there in Fort Worth somewhere with a purple thing in her arm. I don't know what that purple thing is. Is that a Martian? And the bottom row is Tom. That's another Tom. And then we've got Tony and Huey. So there's a lot of people that were at Moon Day. All right, that's just an overview. If you haven't participated in Moon Day, I believe that was Moon Day number 16. Next year will be number 17. All right. So slide master, go to slide number 12, please. On July 13th, that was a week ago, the moon's phase was the first quarter. So the current phase of the moon is a waxing gibbous. We're just a little bit shy of full moon. Full moon is actually tomorrow. On July the 24th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point of the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 364,917 kilometers. On July 27th, the moon will be at third quarter phase. The moon will be new on August the 4th. On August the 9th, the moon will be at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 405,297 kilometers. Slide master, slide number 13. On July the 23rd, just in a few days, in the twilight of the evening in the west-northwestern sky, the planet Venus and the minor planet Vesta will be in conjunction. Now, you'll need to have a pair of binoculars to view Vesta. You might spot Venus with just your 2 eyes, but Vesta you'll need to have at least a pair of binoculars to find. But I've spotted it with binoculars right here in the city, so you might be able to do that. Slide master, slide number 14. On July the 25th, a wide conjunction of the moon, the planet Neptune, and the planet Saturn occurs in the eastern morning sky. Slide master, slide number 15. On July the 26th, Mercury and Regulus will be in conjunction in the evening west-northwestern sky. Regulus is the brightest star in the constellation of Leo the Lion. Slide master, slide number 16. On July the 29th, there's a conjunction of the moon and the planet Uranus and the star cluster M45. That's also known as the Pleiades in the early morning sky. Again, with Uranus, you'll need a pair of binoculars. You might be able to spot it with binoculars, but a telescope would help you see it a little bit better. It's right on the edge of visibility if you're in very, very dark skies. In slide master, slide number 17, on July 30th, there's a conjunction of the moon and Mars, and again, M45, the Pleiades, in the early morning sky. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 18, please. Now, I really like the back and forth. System ambassador. She also has a lot of information about NASA and what they're doing currently. She has tons of assets in that regard. I'm a resource as well. I've gone through some NASA trainings myself. So anyway, but if some of you out there in Radio Land have any questions right now or need to fill on any information, or maybe you just have a general astronomy question, come now. I think this is a fun part of Skynet, having a back and forth. So come down with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. Okay, I guess I've waited long enough. Slide master, slide number 19. So as the moon wanes next week, so that these words for this segment of Skynet: stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live right now. And until next time, well, I usually do another segment on Skynet, but I'm looking at the clock. We might be running short, so Tom, if we are running short, I can postpone this week's Constellation of the Week to next week if we need to. And this is KF5JHA, back to our net control. That would be KE5ICX. Tom?
All right, very good. Thank you, Chaz. And I can edit this thing or pick and choose stuff since I'm kind of doing it tonight. So, but we'll see. I'll let you know here in a little bit. So my agent will get in touch with your agent. Okay, this is KE5ICX. I am net control this evening. Poor Brenda, WB5OZL, put this whole thing together this evening. So this was a monumental work on her part. Unfortunately, she doesn't get a chance to deliver it because there's something up with her signal right now. So, in fact, I had some problems too. The video portion of the net's using different audio than usual. So, I don't know. Maybe there's just something in the air, as they say. Okay, next up is space exploration news and history. So, we're going to go through that. Brenda did put this together, so this is a significant bit that we're going to do. So, I'll hold on here like I cue these things up so that you can see the video part, and now we're ready. Here we go. First up, space exploration news. NASA rolls giant Artemis II moon rocket core off the factory floor for astronaut mission. Core stage, the first rocket to launch astronauts to the moon in over 50 years, has left its manufacturing facility and it's bound for vehicle integration and assembly ahead of its launch next year. NASA's Space Launch System, or SLS, Artemis II booster was rolled out of the Space Agency's Michoud Assembly Facility in New Orleans today. That was July 16, 55 years to the day that NASA's Apollo 11 launched to the moon. The 212-foot booster with its 4 RS-25 engines was escorted a mile down the roadway to be loaded onto NASA's Pegasus barge for shipping to the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, ahead of the second mission of the Artemis program. The Artemis II mission will launch 4 astronauts around the moon in 2025, the first humans to make such a lunar trip since the 1970s. The SLS booster began that epic trip by rolling out of the tall hangar doors of Michoud's Vertical Assembly Center Tuesday around 7:30. A few hundred onlookers, mostly workers and their guests, gathered early in the humid New Orleans morning to witness this historic rocket stage transferred to the next stop in its journey towards the lunar mission liftoff. And just as a side note, this is the same facility that built the S1C, or the first stage of the Saturn V, and it is being erected and transported in very similar way as the Saturn V was. So we know about this stuff. All right, next up, NASA cancels $450 million Viper moon rover due to budget concerns. Viper is short for Volatiles Investigating Polar Exploration. A rover was a robotic mission intended to land near the moon's south pole and spend 100 days scouting for lunar ice deposits. The rover was slated to launch in 2025 to the moon aboard the Astrobotic Griffin lander as part of NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Service Initiative, or CLPS. It now appears Viper will be scrapped for parts or potentially sold to industry. The decision to axe the Viper mission was announced today, that was July 17th, in a teleconference. Canceling the program is expected to save the agency an additional $84 million in development costs. NASA has spent about $450 million on the program so far, not including launch costs. Next up, the Gaia spacecraft almost doomed by back-to-back meteor strike and solar storm, but ESA says they found a solution. In a rare double whammy space assault, the European Space Agency's Gaia spacecraft was recently slammed by a micrometeoroid and struck by a solar storm, leaving it unable to function near devastating impact. Gaia's orbits are more than 932,000 miles from Earth at what is known as the L2 Lagrange point, where its combined gravitational forces of our planet and the Sun create a stable orbit. The spacecraft's goal is to create a 3D map of the individual stars in the Milky Way. But in April, a micrometeoroid smaller than the grain of sand hit Gaia and damaged the protective shield surrounding its instrumentation. In the months since, sunlight sneaking through this tiny crack have disrupted the spacecraft's sensors, according to ESA. In May, for unknown reasons, another piece of electronics failed, part of the system that enables Gaia to validate its detection of stars, resulting in thousands of false detections. Gaia typically sends over 25 gigabytes of data to Earth every day, but this amount would be much, much higher if the spacecraft's onboard software didn't eliminate false star detections first. Edmund Chappell, Gaia spacecraft operations engineer for the European Space Operations Center, said in his statement, both recent incidents disrupted this process. As a result, the spacecraft began generating a huge number of false detections that overwhelmed our systems. The second failure may have been caused by the same burst of solar particles from the sun that triggered widespread auroras around the globe in May, according to ESA. Next up, our space-related birthdays. We have Robert S. Overmyer. He was born on July 14, 1936, and he flew STS-5 and STS-51B. Next, we have Jessica Meir. She was born on July 15, 1977. Boy, I'm getting old. 1977? She was on Soyuz MS-15 and Expedition Crew 61 and 62. Next is Janet Kavandi. She was born also on July 17, 1977. She was on STS-91, 99, and 104. John Glenn, we know that guy. He was born on July 18, 1921. He flew Mercury Atlas 6 and also STS-95. Josh A. Cassandra, born July 18, 1973. He was SpaceX Crew 5 and Expedition 68. We have next is Roy Bridges Jr. He was born July 19, 1943. He was on STS-51F, STS-61F, but never flew. And STS-61F, which never flew. Next we have Scott Tingle. He was born on July 19, 1965. He was on Soyuz 7 mission, Expeditions 54 and 55. He was on Boeing Starliner 1, Expedition 72 and 73, so he's in orbit right now. Now, this week in space history, we have the following. July 17, 1962, the X-15 breaks the altitude record. American test pilot Bob White broke the world record for the highest altitude flight. He took off from Edwards Air Force Base in a rocket-powered X-15 aircraft and made it to an altitude of 314,750 feet. That's almost 60 miles. And then in case you've been sleeping, especially during Skynet this evening, today was the first moon landing of July 16, 1969. July 16, 1969 was the Apollo 11 launch. Then on July 15th, this is interesting. Well, today was the landing, would have been July 20th, 1969. The liftoff was on July 16th, 1969. Do a little impromptu here. On July 15th, 1975, this day in history, There was a crew of 2 crews from the Apollo-Soyuz Test Project mission, or ASTP, launched with their respective spaceports en route to a historic international rendezvous. On this day, the space flight history, 75, the Soviet and U.S. Apollo-Soyuz Test Project crew members performed the first international rendezvous and docking in space and shared an unforgettable handshake. And that's it. Next up is Chaz. We do have time for you. I wouldn't worry about the rest of it. So if you would like to give Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, you have my permission from KE5ICX.
Okay, I'll try to do it in under 90 minutes. Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is Chaz, KF5JHA. Slide Master, slide number 20. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent E. Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Now, since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in North Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total number of constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Draco the Dragon. Now, Draco is the constellation of the dragon. There's at least 3 different dragons in ancient mythology that Draco could represent. Possibly the best known is the one dragon of Ladon that guarded the golden apples of Euphrates. I just messed up that name. Ladon, the dragon, was slain by Hercules, so he could obtain the golden apples. That was one of his 12 labors. You can look up that myth and legend that was written about a long time ago. Now, unlike Orion and Scorpius, which are on opposite sides of the sky, Draco and Hercules are right next to each other, adjacent constellations. Slide Master, slide number 21. Probably what's most important about Skynet are the jokes of the week. Okay, maybe that's just me saying that this is the most important part of Skynet. Okay, here we go. Why did the tired dragon, what does a tired dragon make for dinner? Filet mignon. Filet mignon? Okay, never mind. What do you want to listen why don't you want to listen to a dragon story? Because they tend to drag on. Why do dragons sleep all day? So they can fight nights. Why am I thinking about opening a Dungeons and Dragons themed vacation rental? I'm calling it an Airbnb. Why did the dragon cross the road? He wanted to eat some chicken, of course. And the final in this sequence, what's the difference between Hanukkah and dragons? What? What's the difference between Hanukkah and dragons? One is 8 nights, while the other 8 nights. You can think about that one. Slide Master, slide number 22, please. The star Thuban is also known as Alpha Draconis. Is not the brightest star in Draco. Its magnitude 3.64. The name Thuban is derived from the Arabic word for the entire constellation. So there have been some speculations why Bayer, that's the designation for Alpha, Beta, Delta, Gamma, and the stars, gave Thuban the Alpha designation, even though Edaman outshines it by a 1.4 magnitude. According to Burnham's Celestial Handbook, different astronomers in the past, from ancient times to the 19th century, suggested that Thuban may have had different magnitudes, and they suspected that Thuban could have been a variable star, though it shows no signs of variability today. Johann Bayer himself, in charts of 1603, gave Thuban a larger symbol than Edaman, thereby giving Thuban the Alpha designation. Thuban is best known for being the former pole star in about the year 4,800 years ago. Oh, well, that was during the Egyptian Old Kingdom, around minutes from the North Celestial Pole. Ataman, or Gamma Draconis, is the brightest star in Draco at magnitude 2.24. Its name Ataman is derived from the Arabic words that means dragon's head. The star Ataman appears yellow-white in the telescope and is very easily a negativized star. In fact, we look at it, one of the stars we look at from the Brookhaven campus with the astronomy students. In fact, the astronomy students, oh, that's what I just said. Okay. Slide master, slide number 23. NGC 5866 is also known as M102. In July of 2016, the issue of the Texas Astronomical Society newsletter called The Spectrum, Dave Hutchinson's article notes that a bit of controversy involving M102. M102 is really a duplication of M101 in Ursa Major and is not NGC 5866 in Draco. The Astronomical League's Messier list has M102 and NGC 5866. Stephen James Amira lists M102 as a duplicate observation of M101. Just talked about that. Burnham's Celestial Handbook has a photograph of NGC 5866, but does not even mention M102 in its section on Draco. As to the object itself, NGC 5866 is a nice edge-on lenticular galaxy known as the Spindle Galaxy. It appears as somewhat elongated fuzzy streak in the sky and is whiter and brighter at the center, just slightly. Slide master, slide number 24. NGC, which stands for New General Catalog 6543, is the cat's eye, the first one to be examined spectroscopically by English astronomer William Higgins on August the 29th, 1864, which revealed that the planetary nebula are composed of luminous gas and were not unresolved clusters of stars, as many had thought them to be back then. In a telescope, the cat's eye appears as a greenish-gray, slightly oval planetary nebula. With averted vision, a faint outer glow seems to appear. And large telescopes would be needed to observe the central star, which is going to fade. Slide master, slide number 25. NGC 5907 is an edge-on galaxy known as the Splendor Galaxy or the Needle Galaxy. In a moderate-sized telescope, it looks like a faint fuzzy streak similar to M102, but unlike M102, it is more uniform across its length. It remains to be about the same width almost from end to end, getting only slightly thinner at the tips. Splendor or the Needle Galaxy are good names for this galaxy. Slide master, slide number 26, the last object we're going to talk about. UGC, that's another galactic catalog, is called the Tadpole Galaxy. This galaxy's unusual extended filament earned its name from Halton Arb's list of peculiar galaxies. One look at it, you'll instantly see why it's called the Tadpole Galaxy. It looks like a tadpole. Arb placed the galaxy into a class known as having narrow filaments. For the galaxy in particular, his notes mention the disturbance inside the west arm. The filament may originate there. Famous observer Barbara Wilson was also able to see the galaxy in her 20-inch F5 Newtonian at 230 power as a small oval, fairly faint, no extension seen. You need a big telescope to see that thing. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 27. Now, there are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects on the constellation of Draco the Dragon. I've given you just a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 74 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. There's a couple of them that have 400 objects, so it takes a long time to do those, but we'll not talk about those. So if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin in about a year from the Astronomical League. Slide master, slide number 28, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Draco the Dragon. And I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guides.com for information. Now, next week, we'll take a look at Sagittarius. You know what Sagittarius is, right? Looks like a teapot, but it's actually a centaur. This is KF5JJ, back to our net control, 73, everyone.
Very good. Thank you, Chaz. Thanks all that you do for astronomy and for this net, and thanks for the pictures and the presentations and acknowledgments that you did today. A lot of really fun people. It was a fun-filled day. This is really Nerd Day, I call it, kind of, because a lot of people that I don't get to see all year show up, and they wear multiple hats. So Moon Day was a lot of fun with people doing their technical thing. Very fun. Okay, I'm going to give just a little bit for space launches for this week. I'll be honest with you, I'm skipping the Falcon 9 stuff because they're grounded for now. So this will make it short and sweet. We do have a mission on July 30th, Atlas V, the USSF-51 mission from Cape Canaveral. This will be designated as AB-101 on an Atlas V rocket, which will launch USSF-51 for the U.S. Space Force. This mission will launch an undisclosed payload for the military. Next up, we have, I'll go through all these Falcon 9s. We've got, let's see here, the next one will be a certification flight 2, the Vulcan. This is from Space Force Station in Florida. The United Launch Alliance's Vulcan rocket will carry ballast and a collection of small payloads. The ULA changed this mission when it became clear the original payload, Sierra Space Dream Chaser cargo ship, would not be ready for launch. Now that's sad. This is the second test flight and is needed to gain certification from the U.S. military to fly national security payloads. Next up, and let's see, is this the same thing? Certification Flight 2, Vulcan Centaur. This is United Launch Alliance's Vulcan Centaur rocket will launch on its second demonstration flight of Dream Chaser cargo vehicle. Are these the same thing? SLC-41. I guess this is just a second. I'm going to skip that one. There'll be a test flight 1. Pad 1 from Bowen Orbital Spaceport. Gilmore Space in Australia is preparing to launch the inaugural flight of its Eris Block 1 rocket. The 3-stage launch vehicle is 82 feet tall and is equipped with a 4.9-foot diameter payload fairing. The rocket is designed to send up to 305 kilograms into low Earth orbit. The first mission, called Test Flight 1, does not appear to have a payload on board. And that's it there. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut it short at this point. I'm going to ask for any final check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from. This will be last call.
November 5 Sierra, Quebec Alpha, Ron, Dallas.
Alrighty, well, we got N5SQA, Ron in Dallas. He's our last check-in this evening, and I'm going to close it out, kids. Tonight we had 31 check-ins, not too bad, on Moon Day, including myself. Thank you to all who checked in. We hope you join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you'd like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to the club website, whiskey5friedchicken.org, at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray. Tom, and I'll be closing the net at 22:28 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use for about 5 minutes. 7-3, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. For those of you who like to stay up late, we have the Afterglow movie net. We will be doing that net here in about 5 minutes. Tonight's movie, Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes from 2022. So coming back here in about 5 minutes. Go pop some popcorn. That's what I'm going to do. See you then. This is KE5 ICX, clear until then.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly. Afterglow Movie Net.
Yay, it's Hal, NV5F.
Virginia, this is KF5JHA. What's that purple thing you have called?
It's called a boob, spelled Bravo, Oscar, Oscar, Victor.
And you have how many of them?
I have 7 of them.
And how many days of the week are there?
There's 7 days of the week.
Well, for all of you out there, I tried to convince Virginia to maybe at least nickname all 7 of them by 1 day of the week. So the picture, if you saw the video version tonight, maybe that was Moon Day. Boo. Boo? B-O-O-B? Okay.
Okay, Chaz. By next week, I will have nicknamed each of them a day of the week. I'll have to figure out which boob matches which day in the 5F.
I thought they were identical septuplets. How do you... I guess you probably have their initials marked on the bottom of their feet, I suppose.
Their names are written on their underwear.
That is funny.
Yes, they complain about it all the time in V5F.
Okay, kids, it's been about 5 minutes. I had to make popcorn. Yes, it takes 4 minutes to do popcorn and 1 minute for me to get the net ready. So, so here we go. So tonight's movie, it popped up on the interwebs here probably a little over 2 months ago. I put it in the rotation and discovered a few things that were interesting about it. I did find a wiki thing on it, so I think you'll find this interesting. Let me tell you about the film. It says, Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes, it's a Japanese film. We, at the end of the Drost, is, I guess, something, the subtitle for the thing. It's a science fiction comedy. It is written by Makoto Eita and cinematographed and directed by Junta Yamaguchi in his directorial debut. Getting through these names, I'm going to skip the names because they're really hard. The film begins when a cafe owner named Kato discovers his computer monitor shows what will happen 2 minutes into the future from the perspective of a television in the cafe, which displays what happened 2 minutes into the past. The computer is brought down to face the television, creating the Drost effect, allowing the characters to see several minutes into the future. Drost effect is essentially where you take an image, say a video image, and you look into a video screen with the camera, and you see an infinite vision. It's sort of like two mirrors facing one another. And this effect is the same with a camera and a video monitor. Cast has 10 people in it. Production, the film was shot over the course of 7 days in a Kyoto cafe by members of the European Kokaku theater group. The film, which was edited to appear as if it was shot in one long shot, is an example of Nagamawashi, a micro-genre of mostly low-budget, one-shot Japanese films that have gained popularity after the success of One Cut of the Dead in 2017. The film premiered at Tollywood, a small audience of 12. However, due to the COVID-19 pandemic severely limiting production and release of mainstream films, the film was selected to be screened by major theater chain Toho Cinemas. The film was praised for its playful energy and industrious low-budget spirit. On a review aggregator website, Rotten Tomatoes gave it 99% of 69 critics' reviews as positive, with an average rating of 8.3 out of 10. The website's consensus reads, a time travel comedy shot through with infectious energy. Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes offers sci-fi fans a low-key and highly entertaining treat. So there you have it. I am not going to go into any details. I don't have them here, and I see that Wikipedia wisely did not tackle it beyond just an overview of it, because you have so much happening in the film. This has been compared to an easier to, but still complicated, easier to understand version of Primer, which we have reviewed here in the past and nearly died of brain explosions from that one. This one comes closer, but not quite as severe. Okay, with that, I'm going to go ahead and take check-ins. This one is, you come in with your call sign, your name, and did you see the film Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes? It's still okay to check in if you did not see the film. So let's get started. I'll take check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and did you see Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes from 2022?
November Tango 5, Tango Mike. This is Tony in Dallas, and I was very glad I saw this movie.
Whiskey 5, bacon, lettuce, tomato, W5BLT Bill. Garland, yes, I saw this movie in an interesting way.
November, Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth. Yes, I saw the movie.
All right, let me get those three. And Brenda wants to be checked in as a doorstop, WB50ZL. I'll put you in, Brenda, as resident doorstop. So I know she saw the film. So Brenda, type in anything you want, and I will relay it to the rest of the crew. But we do have checked in NT5TM Tony in Dallas. He saw the film. W5BLT Bill in Garland. Yes, he saw the film. NB5F Virginia in Fort Worth. Yes, she saw the film. And Brenda, WB5OZL, our poster child of bad mojo on the radio. She's in Dallas. She did see the film. Anyone else want to check in? Please come now. There's one person, Chris, over on Echolink. I think he's a holdover from the previous net. But Chris, if you'd like to check in, you're welcome to do so. Anyone else can check in as well. Please come now. Okay, I'm pretty sure a lot of people went to bed because they were up early to get ready for Moon Day today, so I'm not surprised that we have a smaller than usual turnout, but I'm happy to say that we've got a good movie to talk about with their limited audience. So we'll go ahead and go down the list from the check-ins. NT5TM, Tony in Dallas. You saw the film. What'd you think about the plot?
Hey, Tom, thank you. You know, I have this bad fear that Brenda has an next-door neighbor who is like the ultimate tinfoil hat person and has lined their apartment, home, or maybe five-story building completely with aluminum foil just to keep radio signals out. I think it's so annoying and unfortunate. I don't know what's in the way, but man, it doesn't matter what she does. It doesn't work. I had the great fortune to talk with Brenda a little bit at Moon Day today. We both liked the movie, and I'm going to talk about some of the plot reasons why I liked it. Those of you who have heard me before have often heard me say something like, this movie would have been an awesome Twilight Zone episode, but it went for 2.5 hours. This movie avoided that pitfall. They kept it short. They kept it sweet. This movie did have some really awful plot holes, the worst one of which was also kind of funny. I laughed at it during the movie. You know, I can understand why the characters were afraid of disconnecting the magic computer and TV that were 2 minutes offset from each other. I mean, what if one of them gets stuck in a 10-minute Windows update and now it's all gone? It doesn't work anymore. But the thought of, you know, who keeps their TV plugged into a ham radio field day extension cord that lets you carry it up 5 stories? No one does that. You know, they just kind of glossed over that, and it was pretty funny. In a 2-hour movie, that would have been intolerable, but in this short, basically long miniseries episode, just an hour and 10 minutes, it was fine. We kind of knew that was goofy, but we could get right past it. There was a lot of, I think, other people and I all noticed that all these people are coming in. What's going to happen? Are we going to have 48 people in this cafe? Are we going to have 100 people in the cafe all watching each other? No, by keeping it short, they minimized the confusion or difficulty over that. Yes, people get excited when they discover time travel. Yes, they call their best friends, and we all go through this together. But the movie kept it short. It didn't get old. And right as it started to get old, suddenly a plot complication appeared. Some bad guys showed up. Where did you find this cache? Why did you think that rusting VCR was there by accident? Of course it was put there on purpose. It belonged to Art. Its short tightness was a wonderful asset. It kept anything from getting ridiculous. It kept the ridiculous from getting too noticeable. It kept us focused on what was happening. So really, I think the plot was really well done. I don't know how else to say it. Well done, charming, happy. Maybe you want to hug somebody or pet them on the back. I'd have been happy to volunteer as crew in this movie and unreel all the endless extension cords. That was probably my favorite part in the after credits little behind the scenes they showed, was somebody carefully carrying up a TV up a stairs, being filmed by a GoPro, where like 4 other people were handling the extension cords. I just thought that was so perfect. So a great length, very suitable to topic, not too complicated, just charming, happy, playful, good, heartwarming. I even loved the ending. You know, you don't know if they're going to love each other happily ever after, but at least they got the most amazing date conversation that ever happened. You know, and after a night like that, that's what you deserve. So it was all perfectly fitting and not too long. NT5TM.
All right, thank you, Tony. Good. I'm glad you liked it. I did too, but I'm going to defer my comments to a little later. Now, Bill, W5BLT. Bill, you have a unique perspective. I'm sure you will share it, and you teased that in your check-in. So please go ahead. What did you think about the plot for our fine film this evening? Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes from well, it says 2020, but it's actually 2022, I think.
All right, thanks, Tom. I like the plot, and I like the movie for what I got out of it. And so I'm going to have to depend on you guys to fill in all the gaps here. Using VoiceOver on my iPhone, which is a screen reader, I discovered, well, first of all, I wasn't sure how I was going to watch this movie because it was in Japanese. So then I was kind of bumming out, and I tried to find an English copy and could not find one. So their subtitles are on, and I managed to turn on VoiceOver and get it to read the subtitles. So I was listening to my screen reader read the subtitles. Which of course did not change with the voices, obviously, because it was just one voice from the screen reader. But then I experimented and I turned on image description. So once in a while I could get image description, although it was 2 people standing by a video game. So it wasn't quite accurate. And I didn't get the extension part, the extension cord, although, Tony, I have tried to get a vacuum cleaner where I needed it and put 2 extension cords together, which I realized is probably a no-no. But yeah, I put 2 very long extension cords together. Didn't have to go up and down flights of stairs, but have to go across the yard. Anyway, so I like the plot, and yeah, it did. It was just long enough to be, to fill everything out, but short enough that you didn't get bored with it. And so it was interesting too, though. I had VoiceOver kept repeating the text that they were saying every. But yeah, so I did like this, and I think it was an interesting twist on the whole time, maybe not time travel, but seeing into the future, and what would we do if we knew what would happen, and what would we tell ourselves or past selves. And thought it was interesting that in the one scene they kind of lied, the future self lied to the past self. It presented a bunch of interesting things to think about. So I did like it. Probably wish I had an English copy in a descriptive video, but I'm sure everybody will fill that in today. W5BLT.
All right, thank you, Bill, and thank you for the description of how you went about watching this. sometimes I don't think about you in picking the movies. In fact, I didn't even know this was in Japanese until I started previewing it last week, and I realized, oh my goodness, this is a Japanese film. So this is going to present challenges for Bill and others, including those who hate reading subtitles too. That's lots of fun, let me tell you. But this thing, it went well and flowed well for me. But I you get the extra burden of trying to decipher not only a weird plot, but all of the Japanese dialogue while the movie is playing. So yeah, I can imagine that's difficult. Next up is Virginia, NV5F. Virginia, what do you think about the movie and the plot?
Good evening, Tom and Annette. I really enjoyed this. I was kind of primed up for it by talking to folks at Moon Day. I did not get to watch it last night with the group of people online, and all the comments about it made me certain that I was going to watch it as soon as I got home. So I got home and unpacked my Moon Day stuff and got some dinner and watched this, and it was, I'm visually impaired, so reading the screen was challenging because I have to get close enough to read the text, but also try to also keep comprehending everything else that's going on the screen while I'm reading the words, and I can't sit far enough away sometimes to really take the whole thing in altogether. So I don't mind reading a movie if I'm interested in it. I enjoy Japanese storytelling. I enjoy just the overall, I like the language, I like the culture, so I enjoyed watching this for that as well. I really thought it was, I'm not going to say original because I haven't seen, anything that kind of led to this style. And there's been a lot of time travel things done, and a lot of these little shorter, low-budget movies, like you were saying, during the pandemic. But I really enjoyed this one. I liked that the repetitive time travel plot, just when you thought it was going to get boring, some crazy thing happened. Just, hey, go and buy this little toy out of a machine at the train station or whatever. Just there were a lot of wild things. Go find cash in a VCR. Go around to the barbershop and ask the girl who works there out. And I like that within that framework there was actually a plot between those two characters. And I thought it was very, very well done, and I liked the overarching theme about, and it's something we all have to really remember about the future. Not to get into too much detail, but I have been through some situations in my spiritual life where people will act like it's a very spiritual thing to be able to somehow know what the future is going to be. And that has actually, I've been very disappointed by that, and it's actually stolen a lot of my joy and just life, just living life in the moment from me, and not doing what you knew was supposed to happen. And I like the idea that you didn't have to be locked into a predetermined future. I liked all that kind of theoretical stuff about time. I did love the plot thing about the long cord, because I thought about that too. Like, how can he take the TV down? And I loved how they basically acknowledged it in the credits. They're like, yeah, we know it was silly, so we're going to show it in the credits. We're going to show how we actually did it. Nobody in the world would have a, 100-foot extension cord on their television set, or their computer monitor, so I liked but the implausibility of a magic, computer monitor is so crazy that it's like, oh yeah, no problem. They just carry it downstairs or carry it up 5 flights of steps or whatever. And I just liked that they figured it out and that they, it was just brilliant. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed it a great deal. It was so full of energy. Like Tony said, the plot was full of energy. It was just complicated enough. It never got boring. And I just appreciated the climactic moment when the main characters both sort of mutually at the same sided. They didn't want the whole incident erased. They wanted to have had that experience, even though it was weird and traumatic, because it made them realize that they might have something, and that it didn't depend on them knowing what was going to happen, but knowing that they didn't know, and they were willing to go forward with that. So, great plot, great choice this time. I really enjoyed it a lot. Back to net in V5S.
All right, very good. Thank you, Virginia, and thank you for that dissertation, because I got to eat my popcorn as you were probably watching me. I got a little hungry, and I do have a ritual now. I do eat popcorn when we're talking about the movies, so it was fun. And yeah, you make some good comments there. I have some based on some of the things that you said as well, but I'm going to save my time. Now, Brenda is incommunicado tonight, but she did leave some notes here. So let me scroll these back up and I'll read them to you. She says, my comment, you remember when you were a kid and turned in circles until you got dizzy and fell down, and then did it again because it was so much fun? That's how this movie was. I was getting dizzy from the plot, but I loved it. I loved the time travel movies, and this one did not disappoint. She says it was quirky and funny, but the zebra pill bug creeped me out. Pill bugs are gross enough, tiny, but this one was huge. And she was finished, and she always puts in when she has a long discussion, over, meaning she's done with her comments that she typed in. So we got it, and I would agree with that in the sense that, yeah, the pill bug things are kind of creepy, but it had to be in order to create the distraction so that the guy didn't murder our lead character here. So there's that, I think. Let me go ahead and ask if there's anyone else who'd like to check in before I give my comments. If you'd like to join us this evening, we're talking about our movie this evening, which is Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes from 2022. Anyone else want to join us? Please come with your call. Okay, hearing none, I'll go ahead and give my comments. I agree with everyone. I think this film was just the right length. I have no problems with movies being shorter than a minimum of 90 minutes to 2 hours, and that has actually gotten longer through the years. And in fact, many movies today actually extend beyond the 2 hours. And I think that there's some idea that we have to do that in order to, justify the cost of going to a movie, perhaps. I don't know. But this was wonderful. It was, maybe be a long episode of an anthology series or something like that. But it was fine. It worked out well. They had enough gags in the film, because it is a comedy, to keep it interesting, and kept changing things. This was mentioned by everybody else, and I thought that was great. It kept it moving. Some of it was somewhat implausible, but that's okay. It's like a situation comedy. There are things that are implausible, but it's the reactions and the way that people act to those implausible things that are happening that makes it enduring. And it worked. It did work, even though there was a language barrier there. I could read the subtitles. I could see the reactions go well enough with everybody else. I really enjoyed it. It was a playful romp in our favorite, one of our favorite genres, science fiction and time travel. Now, there was a comment in here, and I'm not quite sure why they didn't do it, but this problem could have been solved with the long cables, maybe involving using a laptop. It could have been that simple. A big screen laptop might have worked fine for this little adventure, but I suspect they probably thought of that, and there was something that couldn't be done for that. Maybe the electrical cable wasn't the only thing. Maybe there was something beyond that. They needed a video or something, or some sort of cueing device. I don't know. I would be most curious to find out exactly the formation of this film and how they did it. I think there is a YouTube on its construction and its production. I do want to see it because I thought this was brilliant. It was very interesting to watch. And it was well executed with the characters responding to themselves later on, which I thought was really cool. I love the idea of a single shot. There are several movies that I've enjoyed through the years, and one of them was Russian Ark that we watched and reviewed here that was all done in one take, and it's a 90-minute movie. So that was an amazing thing. This was much smaller production, but still equally as much fun. In fact, I think it was more fun than Russian Ark. There have been other films that use this technique. One that I can remember is The Player from about 30 years ago at a studio where the camera just keeps moving, going through windows, through hallways and things as we get the feel for our principal characters and the fact that it is a movie studio and what they make. I think that's a very good one. And another one I remember is called Absolute Beginners, which was a musical that did the same thing with the first number all done complete, running through 2 or 3 sets, finishing off the dance number. So I like this kind of look. I don't know where they cheat in all of it. It looked pretty continuous, but overall I really, really enjoyed it. I love this genre. I love this style of filmmaking. Okay, I did make some notes. Let's see here. One of the things I was going to mention is there was a Twilight Zone episode similar to this with the television playing future events. You knew they had to do it. It is a television show after all. And I don't remember many of the details about it, but there's the Bickersons, the husband and wife, don't get along all that well. They do a lot of fighting with each other, and she becomes somewhat obnoxious to our hero and the guy, and he sees that he kills her, and pushing her out a window. They're in a 5-story walk-up or something. He pushes her out the window, and she dies. And he sees it on television before it happens, and he can't believe that he's going to do it, but he knows he could. He also knows that he had the wherewithal and the ability to do so. So it became a question of, is it choice or is it destiny? And that was played with playfully in this. Don't break the continuum. And in fact, we get the temporal agents showing up, the vis-a-vis similar to Deep Space Nine and More Tribbles or something. I don't know. The 25th anniversary of the original Star Trek, where they relived the events in The Trouble with Tribbles. If you haven't seen it, it's entertaining, and they have the time travel commission or whatever you call it, the temporal people, and they had that in this. So I'm pretty sure they stole it from the episode to give it an ending. Now, bringing up something here, Virginia likes to bring up a 2001 reference. I always like to bring up a Twilight Zone reference to this, and I am above and beyond just that comment. And that is, in the Twilight Zone, very rarely do they explain the motivating force. What is it that's causing this phenomenon? And that was the charm of the show. We never knew. We just figured it was God or an entity or the universe or kismet or some unknown unseen force. Now, there have been episodes where that's not the case. There's been a reveal with aliens, which sometimes works, other times it does not. Or time travel agents, they've done that before, I think. But in any time they do that, where they add the explanation at the end, it diminishes the impact, because the point of, say, Twilight Zone episodes is not how the circumstance came about. Not at all. It has everything to do with how the characters, the protagonist, antagonist, handle the situation and respond back. And that's the important part. It also makes it easier for storytelling, because in the end, we don't have to set it up. We don't have to make it legitimate. We don't have to do anything. We just have to make it some unknown force is created the situation, and the characters themselves have to get themselves out of the situation. And I think that's a good way of telling stories. Now, could they have done that with this? Probably, but it got trumped by the fact that the guy and the gal that he asked to see his band, got together through all of this, through the circumstance that never would have happened without the circumstance itself presenting itself. So I could see that skipping the temporal time thing completely, and leaving the open question, if they had somehow altered it, what would be the result? We get the result, and people would disappear. Maybe our characters would somehow have, I don't know. It would be hard to figure out. I hadn't thought about the angle as to how far they would have to go with that to make it plausible. Maybe this was the logical and most best ending for a 70-minute film. But that would be the only thing that I would object to, and it's a very minuscule objection, more like a nitpick, because I did enjoy the thing from beginning to end, and I kept wondering, is this going to bog down? Let me reset. So you can go about and really enjoy the film from beginning to end. That's what I did. I thought it was fantastic, and I really enjoyed it. Okay. Now, we can go on to characterization. Now, I'm looking at my Wikipedia where I can cheat. None of the characters, just gives the cast names and not the characters, so you may find that you just have to name these folks out as whoever you want, describing their occupation or their position in the movie. There may be a description somewhere, but this is one of the rare wikis where it doesn't give the character name. So good luck with that. We'll start at the top, talking about characterization. So Tony, NT5TM, you're first.
Hey, Tom. I have to differentiate here. I mostly don't know the characters' names. This is not an English language movie, and I speak German and a little Latin and a little Spanish, and so I know that we had Ozawa, who went off to get the zebra-striped pillbug, and I know we have our female and male protagonists. So I don't know their names, but this is the happy part. I sure could still tell them apart. I don't know what to call you, I think. Like, you're just an exciting person I happened to meet at Moon Day. And maybe we'll practice Morse code together, and you'll send me your name in Morse code. So I don't know what your name is, but I like you, and your name is secondary to your character, after all. This movie absolutely passed, I guess we'll call it the Tony test of can I tell the characters apart? Yes, I could, with their varying levels of worry about time travel or excitement, with their various things they're interested for themselves, or, hey, it's a cafe's closed, you look like you're in a cult. Could you please go away? The characters, despite the fact that I don't speak Japanese and couldn't necessarily recognize their names, were well-defined, they were fun, they were interesting, and most importantly, they were realistic. Because really, if I discovered a computer monitor like this, like the monitor in the radio room there where Aaron is putting the birds to bed, is 2 minutes ahead of the TV here in the TV room, I don't think I'd call the Army or a scientist. I'd probably call our best friend Dan, who lives with us. And then after I called my best friend Dan, who lives within walking distance, he'd probably call one of his friends. I really like that naturalness of action. It seems so realistic among the characters. When you have this exciting news, you don't think of, ooh, is there some strange business? No, you call your friend or your coworker, your boss, your subordinate, someone you like or trust, or someone you think would find it funny. So I just thought all the characters acted extremely naturally, and it was very human and very enjoyable. And, you know, I don't think I fell in love with any of them, but I would be glad to have them all as friends. NT5TM.
Good explanation. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate that. And yes, it does pass the Tony test, and it passed the Tom test for the same reason. All the characters were different enough to enjoy them on their own merit, and you could like those characters, even the bad guys. Okay, Bill, W5BLT, what do you think about characterization from KE5ICX?
You know what? I like the characters. The one guy that was, I think, looking for his guitar pick at the very beginning. Maybe that was got shot. The one that with the, that discovered the whole thing on the TV, and tell them where to look for things. I also liked how they did the, with the ketchup and stuff. There was just, the characters were believable. There was one lady that was laughing, so I thought the characters were interesting. And of course, the time police, I like how they put that in. And obviously, some of that we've seen before, but it was just interesting the way that the characters were played. And so I think it was, very plausible that you call somebody up and say, guess what I just discovered? Growing up as a little kid, we'd discover something that adults already knew, but it was new to us. And so we'd call each other and tell each other we discovered this thing. Of course, our parents were over here and just laugh at us. But it's just kind of neat with the characters. Very, just fun. And of course, seeing the guy and the girl get together. I think it just was sometimes the time travel movies and the what if, always kind of has a darker side to it. This was lighter, and it still talked about such things, with the one guy not liking the future. And so there was, some of that, but it was lighthearted, I thought. And so it really did make, like you said, Tom, even the bad guys were fun. Everybody was just, it was just a likable characterization for everybody. Like I said, it'd be nice if there was an full English translation done in this movie. But I got enough with voiceover on it, and so that was cool. Anyway, I'll save a little more on the next round for that, but because I wanted to comment on that. But yeah, I love the characters.
Okay, thank you, Bill. I think you were done, but I'm going to assume that. Okay, next up is Virginia, NV5F. Virginia, what'd you think of our characters from Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes from 2022?
Thank you, Tom. Well, first of all, we're talking about the one-shot genre and the fact that you mentioned earlier that they had a theater group do this, and I was thinking about acting, and those are the kind of people that can pull this off, because a theater play is basically like a one-off, one-shot motion picture that it just keeps going no matter what happens, and I think that's cool that they had to find actors like that could pull that off. I like this kind of comedy where there's still some pathos, and the two quote unquote main characters, the cafe owner and the lady who works in the barbershop, are of all the characters the least broad. He's very conscientious, and he's the one who's thinking the most about the implications of this, and he's the one that's the most concerned. And then she's got this. I think she likes him, but she's kind of got this past bad experience, and they have a chance, of course, to talk about that at the end. The time cops I also like, because that kind of makes fun of the whole thing. Like the same thing like with the long TV cord. It's like, and it sort of gives a moment where you can do a little exposition, but it also makes fun of them because they're usually like, they rule with an iron fist, and they're going to make you fix time or whatever happens to need to happen in that universe, whatever universe. And I liked that when they decided to not do what the time cops said you had to do. It's like, well, people come along and they go, you have to do this, and you're like, well, yeah, what if I don't? What'll happen if I don't? And I kind of liked that. And then I liked that when they did pull the paradox, that it also had a little bit of a reference to Back to the Future, because they just sort of were fading away. And while they were fading away, they were like, oh no, a paradox, we're not going to exist anymore. And then they're just not there. And there was a nice twist. Like they beat the bad guys, and then he's coming downstairs. They're coming downstairs, and all of the friends who have been helping them, beat the bad guys are like all laying there, like, you think they're dead. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, this wonderful movie just turned kind of sad and scary. And then it turns out they've all been knocked out by these time cops with these silly looking, ray guns. They had a little bit of Men in Black in there too, with this is the stuff that's going to wipe away your memories. And I think it was all, and then they even referred to a couple of, popular culture time, future prediction things with Nostradamus and the 2012 Mayan calendar thing. And so yeah, I thought the characters I enjoyed, because all of his friends were very broad, and they were all very like, oh, let's, like, it was a pretty funny description of maybe the different silly things that people would think if they figured out they could find out what was happening pretty far into the future, mirror effect between these two screens. And so yeah, I enjoyed these characters. Even when it seemed like they were being kind of selfish, they were like, it was kind of like watching an anime. The characters in animes can be really like extreme, and I like the Japanese style of characters, of those stylized, really broad characters, and how they act, and I've just always enjoyed that for some reason. I just think it's really entertaining. So I like that the world around the two main characters was very broad and crazy, but it served their story, and it was just interesting. All the characters were, they each did you could tell them apart, and they each had an interesting personality and interesting motivations in the very, kind of a really, really not terribly heavy sort of thing, but it still had some of that. By the end, you care about these people. You even care about his friends. You're like, oh my gosh, I hope they're not all dead. So, anyway, I liked the end scene a lot, and like I said before, I just liked the getting their understanding of these characters by the end, because you find out at the very end, why he quote unquote hates the future, and you find out why she, was concerned about dating a musician or going somewhere with a musician or having anything to do with that. And so, yeah, very, very nice characters, easy to tell apart, memorable. I'll probably go watch this one again in V5F.
Yeah, thanks, Virginia. I took some notes too, just to glob on to some of the things that you mentioned. All right, I'm looking over here. Brenda has nothing to say. She does mention from my comments, in the real world, we don't know the why when I asked, when it's a mystery. So we'll leave it at that. Let's see here. So Brenda's done. Anyone else want to check in before I give my comments? Please come with your call. Okay, hearing none. Virginia, you gave me some ideas and some things to think about. I wrote some notes based on some of the things that you said. One thing I think is interesting and is this style of filmmaking, which I think you mentioned as well. This is apparently a style that's done with a low cost, very low cost. What is it? There's two things about it, and done in sort of the one-shot type of thing. Very popular, apparently, as a subgenre. Well, this harkens back to the days when that was also, although it was done in studios, but they were low-budget films, the film noir, which I absolutely adore. I love that style of filmmaking, which includes Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049, which also uses that style, even though they had a huge budget. It is a fascinating thing to watch, and it's got that feel with the Bogart and Jimmy Cagney and things like that and harkens back to that time, even down to the costumes. So that genre still lives. Chinatown was another one back in the 70s, I think, when that came out. It's very much a film noir, and it just looks like it, and it sounds like it, and it feels like it. It's just like putting on your favorite, comfortable clothes. It's just, you're going to be in for a really fun trip in that world. Well, this one works in a similar way in that you don't have a lot of money, okay, which is what a lot of films are, and it's a one shot, which means you have to be disciplined and figure out how you're going to do it. You're going to have to organize it. It's going to be labor intensive to make your film, especially in this case where you're piecing together future into past that becomes the future, because that can't be done in one shot, but it looks like it is. It's like magic. It really looks like it's happening the way they're showing you. And I thought that was very, very cool. That's one part of it. So the mechanics of it and the editing and all of that has to happen even though you have no budget. Another thing that occurs is that you have nothing for special effects. I mean, you're doing digital effects probably on that same computer they're using for the time travel thing, the iMac that's sitting there. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the machine that was used to edit this film. So what do you do to get around that? Well, we talk about the clever editing, but the other part is, and getting to the point of this round, is characterization. You've got to make your characters engaging and interesting, and in this case, the comedy so fun. film noir the same way. You listen to the voices in the heads of the main actors that are playing the characters that drive it forward, because we don't have enough money to film scenes that would require 4 or 5 scenes to explain what's going on. So we just say, well, I met the man at the gas station. He told me to go to 5th Street. It was important that he did that. He seemed confused and jittery about the whole thing. I took that as a warning. So I pulled out my 38, and you don't even have to show the scene. You're explaining the scene, and it moves the story along. Here, the people are working and coming up with great ideas, and they're using science fiction tropes from movies and books they've read, movies that they've seen. So you go, oh yeah, we know that, because the audience is aware of it too. They're the ones that are watching the film and seeing the same thing. Let's do a Bill and Ted thing, and put an object somewhere on the screen, and we'll pull it out at exactly the time that we need it. Or the fact that we're bringing in characters from everywhere because we got to expand upon this, and hey, we've got to see this, and then they start doing things, and then there's multiple things going on, and it's progressively more complicated as the time goes on. Fortunately, not to the point of primer where my head exploded, and I could still enjoy it. Just complicated enough they could still enjoy it and maybe keep up. Not sure I did, but I think I did, sort of. Well, maybe I didn't, I just thought I did. Just kind of like the movie itself. So yeah, and then finally what Tony mentioned, I think it was Tony, maybe it was Virginia. Any case, you've got, I think it was Virginia, I think about it, that you've got actors that are trained in live performances, and essentially there's a lot of that live performance thing going on here. It looks like it's spontaneous. It looks like it's natural. There's the continuous shots, so it'd be just like on a stage, and you need to provide the legitimacy for that in order to carry it off and do this genre that they're talking about here. In fact, I think, because I do really love that way of filmmaking, and I think since it's really a thing in Japan, I would like to see a few other films. So I may just pop those in and see what they're like. Hopefully I won't be disappointed, but you never know. Yeah, everybody's different and directors are different, but I think this had moments of brilliance in it that really worked. It moved along. Characters kept it moving. Everybody had a different idea. We've got the nerd. We've got the love build up. You got the bad guys. You've got the unsuspecting girl literally from next door and how she's going to end up being the love interest. And it's just great. I loved it. Okay, well, we've got time for the 3rd round. We are now reaching a point where we're just like 10 minutes away from talking about this film more than the movie is long. So let's go to the top. The last part is talking about special effects or lack thereof, or anything you may have missed in the first 2 rounds, or anything you want to talk about. You can even talk about 2001 if you want to. So Tony, you're first on the list. NT5TM, your thoughts on whatever you're thinking from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Now, Erin has not seen this movie yet, although she wants to because she's heard me talk about it. She would like to insert a nod here to Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, the first movie that we saw together that involved things like, hey, Bill, don't forget to hide your dad's car keys up there above the ceiling panel. Oh, look, there they are. There was quite a bit of this, put this symbol under your shirt. Hey, take this, put it in your pocket. I just loved that, and she loved hearing me tell about it. So I think, honestly, the special effects were minimal or missing, and that's just fine. They created the movie in a way that didn't need things they couldn't do. So wanted to get that comment in there from Erin, and wanted to say that, hey, there were practically no special effects, and it didn't matter. Sorry, this handy-talkie is a 1-minute timeout. If you've got a good enough story and good enough actors, It doesn't matter if your ray guns really fire laser beams or not. We don't care. We won't remember. We won't notice. Just tell it right. And that's what they did. NT5TM.
Very good. Thank you, Tony. I couldn't agree with you more. Bill, W5BLT, what do you think? Special effects, something we haven't covered, something we have covered, something you want to say, anything you may have to say about 2001: A Space Odyssey. Bill, you're next.
Sorry, Tom. Sorry, I can't do that. Comment on 2001: Space Odyssey. But I did. A couple things occurred to me. As much as we hear about how bad artificial intelligence is, technology has allowed me to watch this movie in a way that I would not have been able to do by turning on the description captioning as well, both of those. And so it'll be interesting, what happens 5 years with, now artificial intelligence. I can take a live camera shot and it's describing what my camera is pointing to. So maybe the next thing I'm going to do is point it at the TV, the big screen TV, instead of watching it on my phone. See if I get something different back as far as the description goes. I'm curious now. So yes, I am going to watch this movie again. I could go on, but the other thing that I liked about this is when the time cop said that 2 people upstairs didn't have an influence on the future, so they were eliminated. And with that, I will turn back over to you, Tom. W5BLT.
All right, thank you, Bill, and great. I'm glad to, the technology is there and it makes it interesting. I'm going to make a side comment here because I'll forget when it comes to my turn. But I watched. I'm kind of a Star Trek fan. I don't like all Star Trek. Some of it's kind of not that good. But in Star Trek, Picard, I think it was season 2. I accidentally had turned on the audio description part, much what you use to watch the films, and I had this. I rarely do that because I can see what's going on. The descriptions that they were giving was during the opening credits of the show, and it is the Picard stuff has a lot of iconery in it, icon type things with meanings that are somewhat obscure or maybe not as important to the viewer until later on when they watch more episodes, and then it starts coming together. It's a bit of a mystery, it's a tease, that sort of thing. Well, when I watched it, it was midway through the series, I think, and it explained what everything was. So there were kind of spoilers in there, but it went, there's aha moments for me because I love the trivia and the stuff that goes along with it. That's why that image is there. That's why that piece from Star Trek, the original series, is there. I get all the insider stuff. So it's both enlightening and somewhat a spoiler at the same time. Okay, next up is Virginia, NV5F. You know the drill. Please go ahead.
Here we go. Round 3 and beyond the infinite 2 minutes. That's my 2001 reference. And also, Stanley Kubrick would be proud. I think he would have enjoyed this. First I'll talk about music. There was minimal, if any, very little music, and what they used was apropos and not dark and plotting like most movie music. So that's all I say about the music. The only special effect I remember seeing, I guess, was the time cops fading away, which is a really common and not very hard to do special effect, especially nowadays. I guess the whole movie was one really good visual effect because anything they did to make it blend as one long shot if they, whatever they had to do to make that work is, some of the best visual effects are things you never see. But so that's what I'll say about effects. And then the special effects were the effects that the only special effect I saw was the one where they did with the ketchup. They did their own special effect. And I thought that was really good. And I love that you and Tony both mentioned Bill and Ted, because yes, that was a very Bill and Ted feel. It almost feels like in a time loop that would be something you could do. You could go, oh, I'm going to need this. Make sure to put it there later so that it'll be here right when I need it right now. Let me look here for. We look inside this potted plant for whatever I need, and oh yeah, just be sure to, in the future to come back and put it there, or when you go to the past or whatever, come and put it there. Yeah, time stuff still like blows my mind. I'm thinking if there's anything else. Really, I just really enjoyed the whole thing, and I was very pleasantly surprised. And I did love the attention to detail, where you do think of somebody like, something complicated like 2001, and you're just like, oh, it took 4 years to make, and it had 1 billion shots and a ton of special effects. And I think about this movie, and that it's it's told in real time. It may be one of the only things I've seen that was a real-time thing that I think was probably the most literally in real time thing, one of the most literal real-time things I've ever seen. I like the thing you were talking about the player and other things where they do long shots. I'm even going to throw a little Short Circuit in here. There's a shot in the movie Short Circuit 2, which is not considered like a great film by anybody, by any stretch. But it has lots of little taken for granted kind of things in it. And there's one scene where number 5 and his friend Ben are walking along a waterfront in Toronto, where the movie was shot. It was supposed to be in some sort of general sort of northern big city, but it was shot in Toronto. We actually went there a couple weeks ago when I was in Toronto. We went to this exact spot. But there's a scene where it's a long dialogue scene, and this guy is walking along doing the scene with a robot. And I'm thinking, how did they do that? And it's one of the longest, it's the longest shot in the movie easily. I think I timed it, and it's like 3 minutes long, and that's a long time in movie time. And I'm thinking they've got to have they're moving, and they've got to have a camera in front of them on some kind of moving thing, and they have to have like puppeteers on this, on this dolly, like operating the robot. And this guy is like, Fisher Stevens is acting with a robot for like at least 3 minutes, and it's one of the most amazing things in cinematic history, and nobody ever thinks about it. And if the movie's good and you're really into it, the whole thing I was watching this, I wasn't even thinking about the one-shot thing at all. It was just so good. I wasn't even distracted by the craft of it. But I thought, gosh, the detail, the planning, and all the figuring out you have to do to get something like this to work. And it's so simple and so brilliant, but at the same time, it's just so, there's got to be so much meticulous planning and thought that went into this. And I'm quite delighted. I think it was wonderful. I'd love to see more things as good as this one. Thanks a lot, Tom. Back to you, NV5F.
Very good. Thank you, Virginia. I think we all discovered that about this, and I'm very curious. It's a new, and I put it in quotes, like film genre of sorts. Uh, it, it, but this is a nice introduction, and I enjoyed it very much myself. All right, Brenda has some comments here. She told me that I'm toast if I read her spelling blunder because it kind of sounds a little interesting. At any rate, she goes, my comments. This movie didn't need special effects. It was clever enough on its own. It was fun and funny. I don't know if the actors were real actors, but they did a good job. Yes, they were real actors. I mean, maybe amateurs that were doing a professional production. They didn't try to do too much. Less was essentially more. It wasn't too heavy-handed. It was so much fun. And then she says, you read my typo and you're toast. I did not read the typo, so I'm not toast. So there you have it. And you can leave it to your imaginations which words she changed back to the correct word. But anyway, like Kofifi, I guess. Okay, my comments on this. I don't have much to add from the special effects side of it, except to say this. And I did mention this earlier, and I just reiterate. Having had to do editing myself through the years, and I'm by no means a good editor, that's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. Editing is one of the toughest things you can do in movies. It's the same thing you do in writing, too. It's basically the same. Trying to smith through what you got and making it look good. And as you mentioned, Virginia, on the long shot, I mean, you've got to be able to create that sequence, and you've got to edit it in such a way that it works. That's important. And it's got to look effortless. And to be honest with you, this looked effortless. The way they were able to make this work, it looked really like they were doing it in real time. And we know they couldn't, because they had to film the future scenes first, show them in the past scenes, and then somehow or another, as they're going up and down the stairs, do the old switcheroo so that we don't notice. Yet it looks like a continuous shot, which is one of the requirements for this type of film genre. So kudos to them. That's a special effect that is in every film, and this one above and beyond that, because they're trying to follow a particular guideline, and they succeeded. Some other simple things. We always talk about sound, or at least I always do. They're moving from location to location, and they're maintaining conversation through most of it, even through the stairwells and that. I noticed in the credits that they showed them using a single boom mic that was being plugged into, of all things, an iPhone. This thing was filmed on an iPhone or some sort of smartphone. And it looked great, and it worked well, and it did the point of view faithfully, and the sound was good. The lighting worked just fine. It seems to have succeeded on all levels. Maybe some of that was happenstance, some of it was deliberate, but in all cases it came out whole, and it was like. There was some comments, sort of a nerd online website called Collider.com just raved about this movie. It's a fairly popular site, but go to Collider.com, just look for Beyond, or type in Collider.com and type in Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes, and you can read the review about it. It's really good. It talks about some of the films that we mentioned, including Primer and Ted and Bill's Bogus Adventure is mentioned in here, much like what we did. They discovered the same things. So I thought it was great. I'm going to go ahead and ask if there are any final comments. Just come with your call, or any late check-ins for that matter, and you just want to talk about it. You can do that too. If you're up late, please come with your call if you got any additional comments.
NV5S.
NV5F, Virginia, you get the final word.
Okay, well, I have wondered with all the other references in this. Some of them are subtle, some of them are pretty straightforward. I do have to wonder if the title is a reference to 2001. I'm not sure what the title is exactly in Japanese, but you know, the English title, I have to wonder. NV5F.
Yeah, when you mentioned it, light went off in my head with that sans serif font and the last scene from 2001. So yeah, I was with you on that. It was a little ding, ding, ding that went off in my head as well. So I don't know. Of course, you know, it could be, who knows with translation how all that works out. Okay, everybody ready? Pencils poised and ready for next week's movie. We have a change of pace and a change of decades. Next week's movie will be Space Babes, and the name of the movie is They Came from Beyond Space from 1967. So expect some grooviness from that. I'll send out all the link information probably tomorrow some point. You'll have it, and you can watch it on YouTube. That's it from me. I want to thank everybody this evening, and thank you, Brenda, for taking care of the Skynet, even though you didn't get a heck of a lot of credit. I know you did a lot of work. That was a ton of work that you had to do. Brenda volunteered for several different segments for Skynet, and every once in a while, because we rotate these things in and out, she gets the week in the barrel where she has to put a presentation together. She's got to be the net control, and she's also got 2 other features she's got to do. So she ends up with 3 features, net control, and ends up talking all night long. So maybe she just sabotaged her radio and put in her whiskey and water in the top of the radio to stop it from transmitting so she could get at least part of the night off. Don't know. You'll have to ask her next time you see her. Okay, that's it for me. I think I got enough time I can watch a few minutes of Lost in Space. I don't know which episode it is tonight. It'll be one of the ridiculous second season episodes? Yeah, second season episodes, but we'll see. Thank you, everybody, for participating, and we'll be here next week. This is KE5ICX, now clear. Thanks all.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Brenda. Time for me to take the dog out for her bedtime walk. Thank you all. I really love hearing everybody else's movie comments. NT5TM.